Yemenis around the world mark the 59th anniversary of October Revolution. Special envoy Hans Gramberg calls on warring parties to expand the truce. The 8th-year war leaves millions of Yemeni children without education. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Tasneem Qandil. Yemenis celebrate the 59th anniversary of the 14th October Revolution. This day is historically significant as it marks the end of British colonial era in the country. The following report has more details.
The revolution of the 20th of September 1962 not only contributed to the overthrow of the Imamate rule, but also shook the throne of the British colonialists who had been crushing on the people of the south in Yemen for more than a century and a quarter of a century. Getting rid of Imamate tyranny and the British colonialism and their remnants came at the first goals of the September Revolution and didn't come by chance. The liberation process united the Houthis and united the Yemenis in the north and in the south. The conference, called by Field Marshal Abdullah Salal, the first president of the Arab Republic of Yemen, half a year after the outbreak of the September 26th revolution in Dar es Salaam, confirmed the unity of the revolution through the participation of hundreds of people from the south, and resulted in the establishment of a preparatory committee headed by Qahtan al-Shabi. The task was to prepare a national charter to form a united front to liberate the occupied south of Yemen, in a clear rejection of the British occupation's efforts to separate the south from Yemen by declaring the so-called Union of Saudi Arabia, which tried to annex Iran protectorate to it. The National Charter clearly indicated the importance of the armed struggle in the south until gaining victory and independence. This was embodied by the return of the heroes participating in the defense of the September 26th revolution to their villages in the south, such as the hero Rajih Labuza and his companions. The spark of October 14th revolution in 1963 erupted from the mountains of Radfan, and the revolutionaries drew the most magnificent heroic epics, facing with their personal weapons and their just cause the heavily armed military arsenal of the British colonialists, who had gone mad at the bravery of the revolutionaries. They unleashed their air force in a scorched earth attack in the villages of Lahaj and Adala. In face of the brutality of the occupation, the revolutionaries in the north and in the south made a pledge to themselves of victory due to the sacrifices of Labuza and his comrades. The Republican regime in the north was nothing but supporting the revolutionaries in the south with money, weapons, and opening camps in Taiz and Sana'a for training. They also supplied them with fighters and ammunitions to expand the area of confrontations with the British occupation authorities until they surprised them in the heart of the city of Aden, and they couldn't contain the revolution. 4 years of struggle against the British colonialists made them to admit defeat, marking the evacuation of the last British soldiers on the 30th of November 1967.
Senior military officials from the front line celebrate the 14th of October Revolution, assuring that they will keep the calm of the revolution, protecting the country from any internal or external attacks.
September and October revolutions are among the greatest revolutions in the Arab world, and they are alive in our hearts. The revolutions are considered parallel because the support was reciprocal between the heroes of the two revolutions. The 14th of October Revolution was the first spark against the British colonial, which was the most powerful army at that time. The rebels' struggle continued until the last British colonist left Yemen in 13 November. So it's a great revolution in our hearts.
نتوجه بالتهنئة إلى قيادتنا السياسية
We
والعسكرية.
congratulate our popular and military leadership on the occasion of the 59th anniversary of the 14th of October Revolution. The revolution that liberated the country from the colonists after more than 100 years of occupation. And as border guards, we affirm that we are ready for the final battle against the Houthi militia.
Taiz University held an artistic celebration to celebrate the 59th anniversary of the eternal 14th October Revolution. The celebrations, which are held in Taiz, come in appreciation of the heroic roles of struggles and the great sacrifices and unity in the glorious September and October revolutions. At the ceremony, which was attended by the leadership of the local authority, the leadership of the university, and many political, military, and civil figures, a number of poetic poems, national and lyrical cocktail about the glorious October Revolution were delivered.
Now we are in Taiz celebrating September and October revolutions, and our main goal is to show the effect of these revolutions on the educational process and strengthening the national loyalty.
The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia stressed the need for the UN Security Council to classify the Houthi militia as a terrorist group for its rejection of all the proposed efforts to bring peace in Yemen. This came in the Kingdom's speech during the UN Security Council session held today in the situation in Yemen, delivered by the permanent representative of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to the United Nations, Ambassador Dr. Abdulaziz bin Mohammed Al-Wasil. In his speech, Al-Wasil stressed that the kingdom will continue to support international efforts to bring peace to Yemeni people, repeating its right to defend its the Houthi militia attacks its land again. They will spare no effort to deter these hostile behaviors against them. Special Envoy Hans Grunberg has called the warring parties to engage with his proposal to expand the truce. Grunberg's call came during his briefing before the UN Security Council yesterday. More on this story within this report.
The United Nations Special Envoy for Yemen blamed Houthi rebels on Thursday for the failure to prolong a 6-month-old truce and urged the warring parties to show leadership, compromise, and flexibility. Hans Grunberg encouraged them to rapidly renew and expand the ceasefire agreement that has provided Yemen with its longest period of peace since its civil war began in 2014. Grunberg informed the United Nations Security Council that following recent discussions with regional partners in Abu Dhabi and Muscat, he personally feels there is a possibility for the parties to reach an agreement. Yemen's government and the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels agreed to a 2-month truce on April 2nd, which was extended twice until October 2nd. The inability to renew it, according to Grunberg, has created significant uncertainty for the country and raised the threat of war. Grunberg stated that the government engaged positively with the final outline of its truce proposal, but the Houthis came up with additional demands that could not be met. Gradual opening of roads in the Houthi-blockaded city of Taiz, a commitment to release detainees as soon as possible, and the establishment of structures to begin negotiations towards a ceasefire and an end to the conflict. Grunberg praised both sides' restraint after the truce's expiration, stating there has been no substantial military escalation, merely sporadic exchanges of artillery and small arms fire in frontline locations in Taiz, Ma'rib, Hodeidah, and Daghla. He said that the truce's accomplishments should not be underestimated, citing a 60% decrease in casualties, 56 commercial flights carrying nearly 27,000 passengers, and a threefold increase in fuel products delivered to Hodeidah ports by 2021. In addition, parties to the conflict were able to hold interpersonal meetings under UN auspices to discuss military de-escalation and road openings in Taiz and other governorates. Yemen has been gripped by civil conflict since 2014, when the Houthis captured Sana'a and parts of the country's north, pushing the government into exile. In recent years, the conflict has spawned one of the world's biggest humanitarian crises while also serving as a regional proxy war. More than 150,000 individuals, including approximately 14,500 civilians, have died.
Yesterday, suspicious movement of the terrorist Houthi militia were observed on a number of fronts in the northwestern axis of Al-Dala Governorate, southern Yemen. According to Khabar agency, local sources stated that on separate occasions on Thursday, an active movement of civilian and military vehicles belonging to the Houthis was seen, moving between Bab Khalq and Al-Jab fronts, and on the northern side of Al-Fakhr sector west of Qa'taba. Moreover, the sources stated that the vehicles were loaded with Houthi elements and covered boxes, believed to contain military equipment. Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Mohsen Basra, met today with the President of Inter-Parliamentary Union on the sidelines of delegations' participation of the 145th session of the International Union. He expressed his appreciation for the efforts made by the Inter-Parliamentary Union to stand by the Yemeni people, praising the speech of the President of the Union, which he delivered at the opening session, in which he stressed the need to stop the war in Yemen. The Ministers of Planning and International Cooperation and Central Bank Governor discussed with the Vice President of the World Bank for the Middle East and North Africa joint efforts to support Yemen and achieve economic stability. He stressed that with World Bank Group support for Yemen continues to make a significant impact by overcoming the deteriorating economic condition in light of the exceptional circumstances Yemen is going through. The 8-year conflict caused crisis in education. Most of the infrastructure of educational institutions has been damaged by the war. This result has pushing millions of children out of school. This report has more on this.
Yemen is experiencing an education crisis after nearly 8 years of armed conflict. Over 2 million children are not in school, and many more are growing up with limited access to education. Given the significance of education in aiding Yemen's post-conflict recovery, these lost years will have a negative impact on the educational system on the long term. Children in Yemen are experiencing learning disruption. According to UNICEF, over 2 million children are not attending school, over 4 million require assistance in obtaining an education, and more than 20% of all primary and secondary schools are closed. School staff and students have been killed or injured while they were on their way to school, in addition to a lack of payment which made thousands of teachers look for other jobs to survive life. The danger and economic impact of the conflict has forced thousands of families to stop sending their children to school. Yemen's schools have not been spared in the country's prolonged conflict. At least 1 out of every 4 educational facilities has been destroyed, damaged, or used for non-educational purposes in the last 8 years. Violence against students, teachers, and schools or universities has long-term consequences. Children who do not finish their education are trapped in a self-perpetuating cycle of poverty. If out-of-school children or those who have dropped out recently are not properly supported, they may never return to school. Offering safe access to education can alleviate the psychological impact of violence by giving children a sense of a routine and giving them a bright future through education.
Coming next. Local authority in Aden starts a capacity building program for the youth. Welcome back. In the absence of government monitoring, selling fuel has become common in Hadramaut. Citizens, especially truck drivers and fishermen, says that such faulty fuel has caused damage to their vehicles and engines. The following report has more on this.
In the absence of concerned authorities in Hadramaut, contaminated gasoline has trickled into the governorate at rapid speeds, leading to regular malfunctions and breakdowns in the engines of automobiles, motorbikes, and fishing boats. The prevalence of adulterated gasoline in most government-operated gas stations in Hadramaut has posed a serious, life-threatening risk to vehicle owners in the governorate. Citizen Amin bin Shumaila's motorbike, his primary source of income, broke down after he pumped it full of tainted gasoline.
A while ago, we contacted the mayor to send a small delegation to the petroleum company to investigate the issue of adulterated gasoline. The petroleum company had tampered with the gasoline and injected it with strange substances. We are forced to pay exorbitant sums for this gasoline only to have our vehicles break down and malfunction.
To get to the root of the problem, Yemen Today TV visited a local technical workshop where land and waterborne vehicles stood idle and in need of repair. Tainted gas supplies have rendered these vehicles immobile and incurred heavy financial losses on their owners. For many, their source of livelihood lies in their ability to operate these machineries.
Fishermen struggle with how expensive petrol is. Now we get to subgrade petroleum, which we buy with absurd prices, and it only breaks down our boats' motors. We appeal to relevant authorities to remedy this issue. The petroleum we get has a very thin consistency. It's of treble quality. We hope the mayor can begin addressing this issue and lowering the prices of gasoline in the governorate.
To locate a solution to the crisis sweeping the governorate, Yemen Today TV tried reaching out to concerned authorities, but the crew was met with no response regarding civilian complaints.
International Monetary Fund experts expected Yemen's economic output to be broadly stable, with modest growth of about 2% in 2022 and 3% in 2023. The IMF team said in a report after its visit to Yemen that consolidating economic gains requires strengthening the financial position, giving priority to growth supporting spending, improving governance and transparency, and fighting corruption with the aim of stimulating additional financing from donors. The managing director of the International Monetary Fund urged global policy marks to prevent inflation at a time when the world is experiencing extraordinary economic deterioration, warning that the global poverty is exacerbated by geopolitical tensions. She said that the global economy has been hit by one shock after another, from the coronavirus pandemic, the Ukrainian crisis, and the return of inflation, adding that curbing the rise in prices must be a priority. The World Health Organization said that 8 million Yemenis suffer from psychological problems as a result of the 8-year conflict. The United Nations stated in a report that mental illness is one of the most common health conditions in Yemen due to the 8 years of armed conflict and collapsed economy, which paralyzed health and mental illness that affect all segments of the society. The few facilities available that provide mental health services and psychological and social services suffer from a severe fact from funding compared to the urgent need for severe services. The local authority in Aden has launched a national program which aims to build the capacity of the Yemen in the city. Such a move shows the importance of the role that youth have in building the future of nations. The following report has more on this.
Young people have dreams and aspirations through which they try to change their reality for the better. Although they have the capabilities and the will to achieve what they want, there are obstacles that stand between them and their dreams.
Now the youth needs experience, skills, and capital. We need the experience and skills to strengthen our CV. We need to know English and have computer skills.
The demands of the youth are what prompted the concerned authorities to find projects and programs that meet those needs, such as the National Youth Program.
This program aims to provide the youth financially, and it aims to enhance the economic situation in the country, and we call on authorities to support the youth.
The shift towards peace and development can only be done through youth, which is what the program organizers realized by focusing on empowerment and sustainability.
We appreciate the government's support. In the past years, we were completely neglected, and this program is now supporting us and giving us the attention needed.
Relying on the creativity and innovation and providing knowledge and scientific platforms is going to enhance the active participation of young people in decision making.
Here's a reminder of the main headlines. Yemenis around the world mark the 59th anniversary of October Revolution. Special envoy Hans Grumber calls on warring parties to expand the truce. The 8-year war leaves millions of Yemeni children without education. This is the end of the news. Thank you for watching.